One night of wild abandon, my sister ended up pregnant with my fiancé's child. On my wedding day, she showed up with her swollen belly, asking me if I could give her child a complete family. Everyone urged me to be magnanimous, saying the child was innocent, especially since they were in love, and I was the one standing in their way. I refused, and my fiancé said nothing, only having security escort her out. Later, my sister died in a car crash, a tragic end for both mother and unborn child. Years later, my husband successfully turned his fortunes around by relying on my resources and connections, rising swiftly as a new tycoon in the business world. After years of trying to conceive, I discovered I was pregnant on the very day his company went public. I was overjoyed as I carried my pregnancy test results to him, only to overhear him saying to a friend, "Evelyn and our child are back. I don't want them hiding anymore. I'm determined to get this divorce." Hearing this, my body froze, and my hand instinctively clenched the pregnancy test report. But Delilah has stood by you all these years, investing her money and effort to help you make a comeback. If you divorce her now, everyone in our circle will look down on you. Lorenzo sneered dismissively, "Who would dare look down on me now?" His friend shrugged, "Fair enough, but, don't you feel even a shred of guilt? You hid Evelyn and her child for years, yet told everyone they died in a car crash. Your wife has been carrying that guilt all this time, and she didn't even realize you'd been slipping her contraceptives for years." My heart jolted as if struck by lightning, my mind went completely blank. Back then, she almost killed Evelyn and her child. I might not seek revenge, but I'll never forgive her. Through the crack in the door, I saw his eyes brimming with hatred and disgust. "Bro, you'd better be careful. Even though your wife has stepped back from the front line, she still has connections. If she finds out about your betrayal, I'm afraid she might resort to desperate measures." Lorenzo sneered dismissively, "I've been sidelining her resources and connections for years. Now, she's just an old woman who can't bear children." In his eyes, am I just an old woman who can't bear children? I clenched the pregnancy test results in my hand tightly, the hatred in my heart instantly reaching its peak. 4 years ago, my half-sister Evelyn stormed into my engagement party, crying and claiming she was pregnant, begging me to give the child a complete family. I would never agree to such a request, and Lorenzo also explained that that night was a mistake, telling Evelyn to get rid of the child. Evelyn disappeared after that. Months later, people in the circle were spreading rumors that Evelyn had died in a car accident in another city, taking 2 lives with her. Upon hearing the news, Dad rushed to the other city to check on the situation. Lorenzo also hurried over overnight. They stayed there for half a month before returning. The first thing Dad did upon coming back was to slap me hard twice, accusing me of driving Evelyn to her death and declaring he would cut off all father-daughter ties with me. Lorenzo didn't say a word from beginning to end, but the coldness in his eyes frightened me. During that time, I was consumed by anxiety all day long, terrified that both my father and my husband hated me. To please them, I gifted my father company shares and provided Lorenzo with connections and resources. In the end, it was all built on lies. At that moment, someone called out to me, "Madam, you've arrived?" As the voice faded, Lorenzo and his friend looked up simultaneously. A flash of panic crossed Lorenzo's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure. With a tone full of disgust, she said, "Since you already know everything, I won't hide it anymore. Let's get a divorce, and I'll compensate you with 5 million. A mere 5 million, and he thinks it can make up for my wasted youth? I've invested countless amounts like this in him, so many I can't even count, yet he dares to think this paltry sum could cover his misdeeds and erase my existence." I sneered, "Do you really think you've grown strong enough to look down on me now?" Lorenzo frowned, his mind racing as he pondered whether there were any loopholes or vulnerabilities I might exploit against him. A long silence followed. "I won't let you off easy." With those words, I turned and walked away. 3 days later, Lorenzo's newly listed company saw its stock price plummet, going bankrupt right after its IPO. I made it clear within the industry circles, Lorenzo is an ungrateful dog, and anyone who dares to partner with him against me will be my sworn enemy. I was never a kind person to begin with. If Lorenzo had just told me back then that he and Evelyn were truly in love, I would have stepped aside. He personally told me that there was never any affection between him and Evelyn, that it was all rumors spread by outsiders, and that the night he spent with Evelyn was a setup. I foolishly believed his lies, and now I've ended up in this situation. When my close friend heard about my public statement in the industry, she immediately called me, asking what was going on. I told her the whole story, and she was so furious that she shouted obscenities over the phone. He used your connections and resources to rise up, only to secretly slip you birth control pills in the end. He's worse than an animal. And that shameless sister of yours, it was rumored back then that she died with the unborn child, but apart from your father and Lorenzo, no one actually witnessed it. This scheme was set up 4 years ago, just shows how deeply calculated they were. My friend grew angrier as she spoke, eventually bursting into tears. I comforted her instead. I'm not even crying, why are you? There's plenty of time, we'll slowly settle the score with them. I'm heartbroken for you. You and Lorenzo grew up together, and back when his family went bankrupt, he got down on one knee to propose, promising to love you for a lifetime. Yet he turned around and got involved with Evelyn, even getting her pregnant. Evelyn caused a scene at your engagement party, and everyone laughed at you. Lorenzo drove her away, claiming he'd been framed into sleeping with her. You believed him, but look how it turned out. Every step he took was just using you. On the other end of the phone, I was already in tears, barely holding back my sobs. Don't worry, I won't let that scumbag and that bitch get away with this. Before I could speak, my friend hung up the phone. Afternoon. Mom called. Her tone was serious, tinged with a hint of heartache. Something this big happened, why didn't you tell me? Mom has always disapproved of my marriage to Lorenzo, especially after finding out that he had some secret dealings with Evelyn. She simply can't stand him no matter what. Mom and Dad got divorced when I was in elementary school. The reason was she discovered Dad had a sister who was only 2 months younger than me. Mom made a quick decision and filed for divorce. Dad wasn't willing, to be precise, he couldn't bear to part with the resources from Mom's side of the family. But that woman kept pressing him, leaving Dad no chance to plead his case. Before long, he and Mom got divorced. I grew up by my mother's side, but she was very strict, never smiled, and was always busy with work. I always thought she didn't love me because I carry my father's genes. I tried to maintain a light-hearted tone, replying, it wasn't a big deal. My uncle has already given him a lesson. The reason Lorenzo's company's stock plummeted so quickly was because I asked Uncle for help. Uncle is a hidden financial tycoon. I've never mentioned him to Lorenzo, so Lorenzo thought I had no other cards to play besides my mother's company. The other end of the line fell silent. I couldn't help but grow nervous. At this moment, I was afraid my mother would say to me, I warned you long ago that Lorenzo wasn't the right match, but you refused to listen. Now you see? You got what you deserved. I'm not afraid of being scolded, I'm afraid of disappointing my mother. You've always overthought things since you were little, my child. Mom has told you, I will always love you. In that instant, tears gushed out like a broken dam. I sobbed uncontrollably. I don't even know how long I cried when my mother said to me, raise your sword against whoever dares to attack you. Don't be timid, Mom will always be your support. All the uneasiness vanished. Mom, thank you. After this conversation, I made an appointment with the doctor. At the same time, I also made plans for the next step. 3 days later, Lorenzo got into a car accident. The doctor called me, saying Lorenzo was severely injured and needed a family member to sign for the surgery. After hearing this, I silently hung up the phone. Shortly after, Lorenzo's assistant called, sounding very anxious. Madam, the boss's right leg is completely crushed, his left hand is severely fractured, and he's bleeding in the thoracic cavity. He urgently needs surgery, and we require your signature. Please come over as soon as possible. What does that have to do with me? I asked. Sister, how can you refuse to save a life? Your heart has truly grown more and more wicked, no wonder Lorenzo wants to divorce you. The assistant's phone was snatched away by Evelyn. When her affected, nasal voice came through, it made me so nauseated I nearly rolled my eyes. "You're not dead?" I sneered. The phone went silent for a moment before the voice continued, "Sister, I know you hate me. If I weren't in a situation where I can't legally sign for Lorenzo right now, I would never beg you like this. What right does a mere lowly mistress have to beg me? You." I hung up the phone and promptly blocked all those numbers. That night, Dad came to see me with my mother-in-law. Dad's face was filled with anger. "What exactly did you say to your sister? She's now threatening to jump off a building with her child. They've just come back with great difficulty. Why can't you be a little kinder and leave the widowed mother and her orphan child alone?" I didn't care in the slightest about his attitude and replied coldly, "Am I giving you too much respect? Do you think I'm an easy target? I haven't even dealt with that wretched mistress yet, but I'll have time to settle with you. Starting tomorrow, you don't need to go to the company anymore, you're fired. As for the supplementary card I gave you, I've already had the bank freeze it. From now on, don't even think about spending another penny of mine." Back when Dad's company went bankrupt, I took over his company, turned losses into profits, kept him on as a vice president, and even gave him a high-limit supplementary credit card. In the past, no matter how much money I spent to please him, he always acted like "I'm doing you a favor by spending your money." Now, I'm not willing to spend another cent on him. Dad's furious expression froze on his face, completely unable to believe these words came from the mouth of his supposedly filial daughter. My mother-in-law noticed the change in me and, being a wolf in sheep's clothing herself, pretended to be heartbroken as she spoke to me. "No wonder you don't care about Lorenzo's life or death. Turns out you're such a cold-blooded person. Back when I agreed to your marriage, it was because I valued your kindness and filial piety. Yet in just these few short years, your true colors have finally shown. You've truly disappointed me." I curled my lips. "Enough, old woman. All these years you've taken so many things from me, and now you dare to turn the tables and accuse me of being unfilial? You and Lorenzo both disgust me equally. When Lorenzo was running around like a dog begging people for partnerships, I was the one who gave him a hand. The moment he managed to turn his luck around, he forgot his place. Did he really think I was a pushover? Lorenzo thought he could finally overpower me and eagerly wanted to bring Evelyn and her child back. But haste makes waste. The baby in my womb also arrived at the perfect time. If I hadn't been planning a surprise for him, I wouldn't have uncovered the whole truth. God is helping me. Naturally, I have to seek justice for myself. Lorenzo's injury is just the beginning. What they owe me, I will take back 100-fold. My mother-in-law's face turned extremely unpleasant, but she had always been good at pretending. She immediately turned and scolded Lorenzo. Lorenzo was wrong in this matter. You can rest assured, I will definitely teach him a lesson. You are his only wife, and I absolutely won't let that woman and her child climb all over you. You're the only daughter-in-law I recognize. I rolled my eyes exaggeratedly, then pulled out a thick stack of photos from the cabinet and slapped them onto her face. These were photos my best friend gave me. She had hired a private investigator to follow Lorenzo and my mother-in-law. In the photos, my mother-in-law held a little boy in her arms, happily showing him toys. Beside them, Lorenzo and Evelyn's fingers were interlaced as they both gazed at the boy. It looked exactly like a family of 4. My mother-in-law had known about Evelyn and her child all along. She was part of this scheme. Seeing the evidence before her eyes, she visibly panicked. It's all because you've been trying to conceive for so many years without success. I was desperate to have a grandchild, so I reluctantly went to see that child. How about this, since you can't have one anyway, why don't we just adopt that child under your name? You can raise it as your own. Hearing this, my fury erupted. I glared at her and said, Lorenzo has been slipping birth control into my food for years. You two never planned for me to have a child in the first place. And now you dare say I can't conceive? You disgust me more than the maggots in a sewage ditch. This time, I got pregnant unexpectedly, probably because Lorenzo, seeing that nothing had happened for years, got careless and didn't give me that glass of milk afterward. My mother-in-law didn't expect me to be so sharp now. Unable to come up with another excuse immediately, she quickly turned to my father for help. From the start, my father had been glued to his phone, probably contacting people at the company to confirm whether he had really been fired. "I suppose you haven't checked your email. The dismissal notice was sent to your mailbox long ago," I kindly reminded him. Only after reading the dismissal notice did my father confirm he had been fired. Not long ago, he had taken a month of paid leave under the pretext of being unwell, so he thought he was still on vacation. "Don't think I care much about this deputy manager position. If you hadn't begged me to take it, I would have started my own business long ago. From now on, even if you kneel and plead with me, I'll never return to that lousy company again." Even at this point, Dad still tries to save face for himself. I sneered, "The house you're living in now was bought by me. I'm giving you 3 days to move out. I'll have someone reclaim it when the time comes." Dad was furious but couldn't bring himself to beg me. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, I'll move out. I've got plenty of other places to stay." Neither of them gained any advantage, and in the end, they left in disgrace. Several days later, a video spread online. A woman was carrying a child, kneeling and bowing from the foot of the mountain all the way to the temple in the hills. When asked why, she cried and said, the child was sick, and she was praying to God for blessings. People were moved by her and praised her as the most beautiful mother. In the video, she wore a moonlit-colored long dress, looking very graceful. Her hair seemed casually tied up with a hairpin, but every detail was carefully arranged. Her simple, understated makeup made her all the more pitiable and lovable. Her beauty and devout demeanor instantly caught the attention of the media, earning her the title of the most beautiful mother. She quickly skyrocketed to fame. Soon after, it was discovered that she was the long-missing Evelyn. Overnight, her mystery deepened. Online, a fanbase began to form around her. Led by certain individuals with ulterior motives, her admirers started to mythologize her, claiming she was a hidden trophy wife of a powerful figure and that her mountain pilgrimage was for the sake of her child. Even the media branded her with a label, the goddess of motherly love. Amidst the cheers, Evelyn finally appeared on social media, still wearing her minimalist makeup but with an emerald necklace around her neck. Someone recognized that the emerald necklace was auctioned by a certain ultra-wealthy foreign figure. This piece of evidence once again confirmed that Evelyn's identity was far from ordinary. Evelyn never explained anything from start to finish. Her low-key demeanor made her explode in popularity once more. In just a few days, she gained millions of followers online. A friend forwarded these news to me and said, "This little minx knows how to market herself pretty well. I'll let her gloat for a couple of days." I quickly skimmed through the content and came up with a plan in my mind. Half a month later, Lorenzo still called me. He had always been waiting for me to bow my head. After all, I was his follower. Now that I quit, he thought I was playing hard to get, but the result was just his company barely staying afloat. "How much longer are you going to keep this up?" he started right off with an accusation. I hung up the phone directly. The next second, the phone rang again. "I miss you so much. Could you come and see me?" Lorenzo suddenly changed his previously arrogant attitude, his tone turning pleading and pitiful. I used to fall for this act of his. Back when he proposed, he said, "Everyone looks down on me, but I want to prove them wrong. Will you stay by my side? Will you marry me?" I wore a pure white wedding dress and stepped into hell. He was the beginning of all my misfortunes. I said coldly, "If you die, I can send you a coffin, after all, we were once husband and wife." He froze. "Do you hate me this much already? Mail me the signed divorce papers." Lorenzo hadn't contacted me for a long time, partly to wait for my anger to subside and partly because he was afraid I'd bring up divorce. At this point, we were mostly bound by mutual interests. He thought he had stripped me of my power, but little did he know that my anger would lead to his company on the verge of bankruptcy. How dare he divorce me now? I won't divorce you, I love you. Sweet words turned into lies, becoming his tool to manipulate me. Suddenly, I really wanted to ask him, did you ever truly love me? But the words stuck in my throat, feeling pointless and just making a fool of myself. He sensed I was about to hang up and quickly added, things between Evelyn and me really aren't as complicated as you think. Back then, she got pregnant and ran off to a strange place to kill herself, but a kind-hearted person saved her. I couldn't bear to see her and the unborn child die, so I planned to send her abroad after she gave birth and have the child raised by my relatives. But plans can't keep up with changes. Evelyn was too cunning, she took countless photos of me with the child and threatened me. If I didn't support them secretly, she'd send the photos to you. That was his explanation. He must have thought these words would clear the air. After all, a proud man like him had already bowed his head to explain so much, I should have forgiven him. I remained silent for a long time. He also grew angry and said, I've already explained. Whether you believe it or not is up to you, but I hope you won't mix personal matters with business. I had someone investigate, the company's stock price plummeted because of some obscure big shot pulling strings behind the scenes. But I never expected that person to be your uncle. To get back at me, are you willing to destroy the company we built with our own hands? You ruined my entire life. Why shouldn't I ruin your company? I retorted. He had no response and could only resort to emotional blackmail. We're husband and wife. We should tolerate each other. You have a bad temper and poor health, yet I've never complained about you, not even once. Why can't you give me a chance to repent? He really thought I couldn't conceive. Without another word, I took a photo of the pregnancy test and sent it to him. Before he could respond, I hung up and blocked his number. The next morning, I made a rare appearance on a financial show. At the end of the program, I patted my belly with a loving expression and announced that I was going to become a mother and would not appear in the public media for the next year, focusing on my pregnancy. News of my pregnancy quickly spread throughout the industry. Not long ago, I had publicly declared my irreconcilable stance with Lorenzo in the industry. Now, with the sudden news of my pregnancy, many speculated that Lorenzo had managed to win me back. Then, a close friend stepped in. Overwhelmed with grief and indignation, she posted a lengthy essay online. In summary, Lorenzo had a 3- or 4-year-old son outside our marriage. To secure his son's position, he had been secretly giving me contraceptive drugs for a long time, hoping to damage my health. Unexpectedly, I still got pregnant. She urged me to abort the child and divorce Lorenzo. The essay went viral, shocking everyone. What was originally just gossip within financial circles unexpectedly trended, becoming common knowledge. Back when the Delilah and Lorenzo families arranged their marriage, I remember Evelyn caused quite a scene at the engagement party. She was visibly pregnant, claiming the child belonged to her brother-in-law and demanding her sister give up her fiancé. It caused a huge stir at the time, but the news died down quickly, so nobody knows if it was true or not. Regardless of its truth, when the Lorenzos went bankrupt, Delilah's family bailed them out. Yet as soon as Lorenzo regained his footing, he immediately dumped his first wife. He never loved his wife to begin with. Didn't you hear he secretly fed her contraceptives for years? A man like him is both calculating and cruel. Poor Delilah. This child shouldn't be kept, right? She took medication. I'm afraid it might have deformities. Soon, someone discovered that the newly minted million-follower blogger was none other than the Evelyn they had been discussing. So everyone flooded into Evelyn's account to ask, aren't you the mistress who crashed her own sister's wedding while heavily pregnant? No wonder your son is sick, you deserve it. Wasn't that viral video of yours set up by your own team? It's so aesthetically perfect, clearly directed by a professional. We've all been fooled, she's just a master at hype. Remember her second viral video? The one where she wore that emerald necklace, hinting at her noble status? Turns out the emerald was fake, it's already been debunked. Only her die-hard fans keep defending her, insisting otherwise. Once doubts arise, they spiral into endless scrutiny. Evelyn didn't dare respond. She disabled the comments section instead. As the incident grew increasingly out of hand, she posted a comment saying the truth will out, but still didn't dare to open the comment section. That evening, Evelyn came to me with her child. "Sister, 4 years ago you nearly got me killed, and now, history repeats itself. You spread rumors. Do I have to die for you to leave me alone?" She was weeping bitterly, and the boy beside her glared at me fiercely, cursing, "You evil woman, you made Mom cry, just drop dead." I stood expressionless at the door, silently watching her performance. If I wasn't mistaken, she was carrying a recording device. To fabricate rumors, she needed evidence, even if it was edited evidence. After crying for quite a while and seeing how unmoved I was, having long since seen through her plan, Evelyn wiped the tears from her face and angrily said, "Don't think you've won. As long as my son is around, you can't shake my position." I intentionally lowered my head and glanced at my belly. Evelyn's vicious gaze fell on my abdomen as she hissed, "So what if you're pregnant? Lorenzo loves me, that's why he cherishes me and my son. He doesn't love you, and he won't love your child either. If you have this baby, it'll just grow up without a father." With that, she took the little boy by the hand and turned to leave. Before they had taken more than a few steps, at Evelyn's hint, the little boy suddenly ran back and charged straight at my stomach with a hard collision. I was already on guard, so the moment he rushed toward me, I dodged it instantly. The little boy missed his target and collided headlong into the hot water kettle by the door. With a crash, the freshly boiled water poured out, scalding him all over. The little boy screamed uncontrollably, writhing in pain on the ground. Evelyn hurried over and, upon seeing the boy scalded by the hot water, immediately tried to pin the blame on me. "I never thought you'd throw hot water at a child. I'm calling the police to arrest you." After speaking, Evelyn immediately made 2 phone calls, but neither was to report to the police. Worried that things might escalate, I called the property management to come upstairs while also dialing the police. Soon, both Lorenzo and my father arrived at the same time. However, Lorenzo was in a wheelchair, pushed over by his assistant. Upon seeing the child scalded by boiling water, my father's heart ached unbearably. With Evelyn adding fuel to the fire, he lashed out at me with a slap. I didn't hold back either, quickly dodging before retaliating with a slap of my own. My father was stunned. This was the second time I had defied him. The first time was with words. The second time, with force. I raised my eyes and looked at him with a smile, asking, "Are you sober now?" Dad was utterly humiliated and rushed over to teach me a lesson, only to be blocked by the property security guards. "All of you, step aside. If he dares to harm a single hair on my daughter's head today, I'll make sure he loses a hand." A domineering voice rang out from not far away. Mom arrived, followed by 3 bodyguards. Striding in her high heels, she walked step by step toward Dad. Dad froze completely, his hand still raised high, forgetting to lower it. With a sharp crack, Mom slapped Dad across the face and asked, "Are you sober now?" Dad snapped back to his senses. Even though he had been hit, he didn't dare lose his temper. Swallowing his anger, he asked, "What are you doing here?" Mom ignored him, turned and walked over to me, giving me a once-over. Seeing that I was okay, she then looked back at Dad. "Why shouldn't I be here? Our daughter has been bullied to this extent. She doesn't have her father to stand up for her, so of course, I, as her mother, will help her seek justice." "Do you know what she did?" "She splashed boiling water on a child who's only a few years old. This is her own nephew, how could she do something like that?" Dad fumed. At this moment, the police arrived. Evelyn pointed at me and said to the police, "Arrest her quickly. She poured boiling water on a child, my son is almost killed by her." The police asked who called them, and I said it was me. At the same time, I also told them that I had surveillance cameras inside my house, aimed directly at the entrance, and everything that just happened was recorded. Evelyn's face turned pale. She made an excuse, saying the child was badly injured and needed urgent medical attention, then picked up the child and tried to leave. Dad followed them. Lorenzo glanced at me, seeming to understand something, and said, "If this had nothing to do with you, I'll make sure justice is served." Mother threw the divorce papers directly in his face. "I had these drafted. I'll give you 1 day. If I don't get a response by this time tomorrow, your company can wait for bankruptcy. Unlike my brother, who went easy on you with just a lesson, I'll make sure you understand what it means to live a fate worse than death." Mom put Lorenzo in his place, and he looked up at me with an indignant expression, as if waiting for me to give him an out. I walked over to Mom, wrapped my arms around hers, and cooed, "Mom, it was my fault last time for not handling things well. It has nothing to do with Uncle." Mom pinched my nose, gave me an affectionate smile, and said nothing. Lorenzo's face darkened like the bottom of a pot. As if struck by a thought, he asked, "You're pregnant? Whose is it?" At this point, he still wanted to trap me in a self-justification loop. I stared at him coldly, not uttering a word. "You're about to be a mother yourself. It's too cruel of you to scheme against a child like this," Lorenzo accused me. I grabbed him by the hair and slapped him hard across the face several times. If not for the assistant holding me back, I could have beaten him to a pulp. At this moment, I regret ever having loved him. I loathe my past self for being so blind. Evelyn spread rumors online, claiming I had poured boiling water on her son, leaving him disfigured. Her melodramatic pleas won over a small number of supporters, but most netizens stayed clear-headed, refusing to take sides and instead flocked to my account to ask what had really happened. I said nothing. Instead, I simply posted the surveillance footage, a full, unedited 30-minute video, rendering Evelyn speechless. But she still found an excuse. "You deliberately placed the boiling kettle by the door, clearly intending to harm my son." I replied to her, "As you sow, so shall you reap." Netizens are not blind. Her son suddenly ran back and rammed into my stomach with all his might, trying to make me fall and miscarry. After all, a child can't be jailed, and afterward, they could just use the excuse that the child is too young to understand anything to brush it off. There's no doubt that this was all instigated by her, the mother, behind the scenes. But there were still people who called me heartless, saying I was cruel to use such methods against a child, and even cursed that the child in my womb would meet a tragic end. As for online trolls like these, I simply ignored them. But that didn't stop me from quickly terminating the pregnancy. A month later, once I had fully recovered, a close friend came to visit me. She told me many things, for instance, how Evelyn tried to demand compensation from me but couldn't find me, so she resorted to hurling insults online. Ended up completely ruining their personal brand and getting banned across all platforms. Originally wanted to milk the platform for money, but ended up with nothing and tarnished their own reputation. I haven't been online this whole month, so I was unaware of this incident. Lorenzo's company went bankrupt. Your mom really is a formidable businesswoman. With just one move she completely cut off Lorenzo's escape routes. Lorenzo wanted to beg you for help but couldn't find you, so he had to go kneel in front of your mom's company pleading for mercy. His legs had just started improving, but after kneeling all day, the injury relapsed and he was left with a permanent limp. Lorenzo still hasn't divorced me. He refused to sign the divorce papers, which is why Mom went after him mercilessly. But I've already filed for divorce. And what's more, your dad is absolutely shameless. Wasn't he fired? He actually went to your company to work, and after being kicked out by security, he tried to pull rank on them. Your mom rushed over and beat him up before he dared to stop making trouble. I sighed, not feeling happy at all. I couldn't understand, both being daughters, why does he favor Evelyn but despise me? After Mom married him, she treated him extremely well and was filial to Grandpa and Grandma, yet he still preferred women outside. Perhaps this is the power of the white moonlight. He loves his white moonlight outside, and loves the daughter she bore him even more. Seeing my expression turn grim, my friend changed the subject and brought up other amusing topics. Time flew by. A year passed. During that year, I traveled the world. If someone had told me Lorenzo had been in a car accident and was on the verge of death, I would have forgotten he even existed. After returning home, I went to see him once. The once dashing and spirited man was now struggling for life on a hospital bed. He mumbled incoherently, saying he was sorry. Looking at his miserable state, worse than death, I replied, "Is this your fate? It's a perfect match for what you did. His outcome is worthy of the causes he sowed." After saying that, I left. Dad divorced Evelyn's mother. To be precise, that woman ran away. She couldn't endure the hardships of poverty, so she took all the household money and fled with Evelyn, leaving the little boy for Dad to raise. Dad couldn't even support himself, let alone the little boy, so he handed him over to Lorenzo's mother. Lorenzo's mother refused to take him in. She was afraid of the scars on the little boy's body, saying he was unlucky, a little monster. Later on, the little boy was handed over to other relatives, and no one ever mentioned him again. Another year passed. I successfully got divorced. In another country, I started living a happy and fulfilling life.